baseline back around again.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Shuffle podcast. Today I'm bringing here Lostboy from New York, USA. Hello. For the ones who don't know you, please introduce yourself. You're a shuffle dancer for 10 years, so you have a lot of experience and interesting things to talk about. So please, who are you for the people who don't know you yet?
Alright, so hola, hello, how ya doing? I'm Jalen Riley, aka Lostboy. I'm from upstate New York, in a town called Beacon, and I've been shuffling for around 10 years. I have a background of jerking and light feet, which is also like a footwork based dance, and I kind of been trying to push the whole hybrid shuffle movement with that and showing people that it's okay to mix styles with shuffling. So yeah, that's what I'm about, boy.
Okay, so let's start from the beginnings. Why did you start shuffling? What did you see in this particular style? Because 10 years ago, shuffle, it wasn't a big thing yet. Like it didn't went viral because it went many times viral within these 10 years. So what did you captivate your attention and wanted you to start dancing shuffle?
So I'm half Puerto Rican, so I've always lived in like a Puerto Rican household and stuff. You know how they get down. Music is always playing in the house and stuff. So me growing up, I was naturally born with like rhythm. Because Spanish music was always playing. With that, I was a very energetic kid. I always liked like moving around a lot. So basically, I'm at my friend's house, and he's like showing me these videos of these guys with their spiked hair and their big pants. You can't even see their feet, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And I see this guy gliding from left to right, and it's looking like an optical illusion. Like, how is this man doing this? And looking like he's
floating.
He's floating from left to right with such speed. I'm like, what is this? And like when I saw that, I just like fell in love. And after that, I wanted to do it. Because it's shuffling like at its core, like Melbourne. It's very like fast paced, powerful, aggressive, type of deal and stuff. And that was like, I resonated with that. You know what I mean?
So we talked about what you mentioned, these old videos that people who started like me many years ago. I'm now 7 years into shuffling, and we all saw these videos going side to side to the screen with these big fat pants.
Pants,
Yeah. So this shuffling, like sliding, that it was so very like it was very cool to see. I agree. I agree with it.
Yeah.
And I also had kind of the same feeling in this way. So this in first interest in this Melbourne shufflers style. When you started, did you want to achieve that, or were you already, because you told us in your presentation that you had a light fit background, more footwork, and did you begin to kind of get this style, this Melbourne shuffle style of these videos, or from the beginning you wanted to do this hybrid, like you mentioned?
It was at its core. It was Melbourne. I would have never thought. I didn't really think of blending styles until I went to like my first ever meetup. So, but other than that, I was dancing like a straight up Melbourne shuffler.
So in this years, because 10 years ago it was 2010, 2011. How was the community back in these days in where you were living? It was New York, this kind of Uh,
Well, there's been a shuffle community in NYC for years on end. I just never knew they existed till like 5 years ago.
mhm.
And when I did find out about them, you had you had a handful of experienced people that's been doing it for a while. Not like how a lot of people are doing it in a greater number, but they just don't have the experience yet. But these people have been dancing for a while, and the special thing about New York City and its dancing is that it has its very own distinct flavor.
Mhm.
So when you saw these OG shufflers, you can pick apart their style, and each of them was unique in their own way.
Which dancers were in this
Uh,
moment when you
you
met
had
them?
yeah, what was their names? You're asking?
Yes. Who
Yeah,
who are they?
you had. So I met Tupul,
Hmm.
right? He lived like literally like 10 minutes away from me. I didn't really know he was a shuffler till like around the time I went to my first meetup. So I go to Connecticut, which is another state over, to this EDM event, and I'm shuffling, and I see this guy. I see this tall white guy shuffling, and he's like smooth as shit. And like I was like, oh, that's Billy. That's Tuple. That man lives like 10 minutes away from me. And then the admin of Shuffle NYC was there also. And she saw us dance. She was like, you want to go to like a meetup? They were like, oh yeah. So that's where I met. That's where me and Billy got close. That's where I met Edith. That's where I met Tenchi, Nelson, Nova, R.I.P. Um, who else? You got Shura, right? You got Haru,
Hmm.
um, Nova, which I think
Hmm.
she goes by Anubis now. Just all these legends, bro. That's been doing it for a while. They weren't tied down by like the trendy style, what everybody's
Hmm.
doing right now. They had their own distinct style. And they made it their own.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, you can adapt to whatever style it comes, as long as you keep it like your own style. Like you don't try to
mhm.
copy or become someone else. You just
Yeah.
take things from whatever is happening in the community
Mhm.
or in the dance scene at this moment, because everything has changed so much. Because you've been 10 years, I've been 7, and we've seen the shuffle dance change so
Yeah.
much, and it's going to change even more. Like we're really early on the shuffle development professionally wise in the dance style, because with professional culture it's really young. The style is really young. The it's old from when it was born, like back in the 80s, in the first
Mhm.
raves in the UK.
Yeah.
But from these moments until 2010, and between 2010 and 15, it started to happen some things that was lighting, like some doing some sparks for people
Mhm.
to start taking more professional. There was people, but it was like very underground. Everything was really underground, like uh, only in the raves, only in the parties. It wasn't like a style which you would practice outside of that. And actually, the, Chuflis told me that
Mhm.
the first times that shuffle was started to being danced outside the raves, it was
Yeah.
because the young brothers of the shuffle dancers, they wanted to dance too, but they couldn't go to the raves because they were under 18 or 21. I don't know
Yeah.
which year is it was there, but they had to dance on the streets. So
Mhm.
I think this is like the first times people started dancing on the streets. And did you start in the streets or in the club, in a club, in a festival?
Streets, bro. Straight up
Straight.
the streets. Straight the streets, bro. When I live, bro, there's no raves up here. If I wanted to dance shuffle, it would just be at someone's party. But like other than that, like I didn't really grow up living in the rave culture. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was just me. I would like consider what I call myself like a true born. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I learned shuffling without raves, and I took it. I took it and I treated it as like any other dance style.
Mm-hmm.
You know that should be respected,
Mm-hmm.
and I took it serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah. Of course, you don't need to be precisely learning shuffle in the raves. Like when I started,
yeah.
I didn't know it because I saw it in a rave, or I wasn't like a big rave fan or rave culture. I know the rave culture now because I think that for understanding the dance, the shuffling, where it comes from and why people was creating these steps and this style, I think it's very important to develop with good knowledge, because if not, you're
Mm-hmm.
just learning like mechanicals and you don't know like the feeling that the people had in the beginnings, and this leads you to uh, th- this knowledge and yourself, when you
Mm-hmm.
when you merge them, then you can start developing your style because you understand why they were creating this and where it comes from, and you merge it with yourself, whatever style you want to do, whatever music you like to do, to dance to. And I started the same out of the raves, and right now it's really few people that start on the raves. It's more of an OG thing. It's more
Yeah.
common to hear that from very OG dancers, and most of the people
Mm-hmm.
that just dance in the raves, they don't dance nowadays, and it's rare. But there's also people that started shuffling because the rave culture and they like the rave culture. So
Yeah.
both, I think, they have to be respected, and they both are part of the community and part of the shuffle dance scene. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
recommend to discriminating anything because I think it's a little bit stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Have you seen?
Mm-hmm.
Had you had around some cases that, for example, not going to raves or just going to raves, like there was people getting mad? Maybe it's not for asking for drama, but like I don't know. I haven't met anyone. Like it's more. I've met more people with the style issues more than, let's say, pure where do you dance issues. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So are you? What you're trying to ask me is like, is there what are the different characteristics of if you're from the streets versus when you're like in the rave, right?
Yeah, for example,
Or
because I when I started, at least here in Spain, raves are not that common. So
no?
I just know I know very few people who were actually going to the raves. Well, I have a close dancer, which is Oxy here from Barcelona, which he raves very often now because COVID, not much, but
Yeah.
he's very into raves, and but for example, he's like very okay with everything. Like he doesn't care if the other people doesn't go to raves or no, but he knows that it's important to know the rave culture to understand better the shuffling, and then you
Yeah.
can you can do whatever you want.
Of
So
course.
okay, so
There's
yeah.
there's a separate there's a certain type of rawness that comes from learning from the streets, right? Because like, you know, you go to a rave and like everybody's happy and it's like plur plur plur. You
Hmm.
know, you see somebody doing it and you're like, oh, I want to learn that. Versus that, like, you might not come from a good living situation. You're poor.
Hmm.
You're not really that smart. You know, you don't really have that many friends. You're probably awkward. You know, dancing can be a positive outlet when your life is really not all that good. So when you see these kids that come out the streets, you know, I think it's they're just a different type, you know. They take it more seriously because that's something that got them out of that negative mindset.
Hmm.
I mean, like
Yeah.
if you look at a lot of like Cali shufflers, you know, like these people came from the streets, you know. They're not privileged, right? They got made fun of,
Mm-hmm.
in high school for shuffling. So, that made them all the more like closer together, for
Mm-hmm.
people that were shuffling and stuff.
Yeah.
These people came from bad neighborhoods. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the best living situation, But like dancing is better than doing drugs or
Yeah.
getting drunk all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So with growing up like that through dancing, you just gain like more of a you're built different. You know what I mean? Like you have a more raw mindset of what the dance should be.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at the other side of, like I said before, like you learned it through raving and all that shit and everything's positive, it can be kind of cringe. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Because it's at the end of the day, it's however you look at the dance,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much.
So this
Thanks.
is very interesting because I wouldn't say that I had problems or not very friends. But I haven't always been like the popular guy, like in the class. I
Mm-hmm.
was typical average person.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have like a lot of friends, but I had like the friends which you meet at school and because you're at school and that's it. But when dancing, I started to build like so much better relationships because we had this thing in common that moves us, which is dancing, and
Yeah.
makes us like connect more deeply. And I found like right now my best friends and the best relationships I have, almost all of them are in dancing, and some very very close friends which I've been with them so many years right now. But it's more easy to connect with the dancing because you already have something in common. If you go to a meetup and want to talk to
Mm-hmm.
someone which is in the meetup, you
Yeah.
maybe don't know him or her, but you know that you both like shuffling. So
Yeah.
it's more easy to build relationships having
Yeah.
this in mind. And it's different when raving because it has some things good and some things that aren't really good, like drugs. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that commented Cassidy Chaps in the first podcast episode, he he wanted the people which was in his classes to learn that for dancing shuffle you don't have to go raving always. You can dance outside of the raves. You can have dancing sessions. You can have meetups. And because in the raves or in the clubs, actually, there's a lot of people drinking or maybe doing drugs or whatever, and there's a lot of young people which is getting started in dancing, and it's not always the best atmosphere to like
Yeah.
because actually it doesn't represent nowadays what shuffling is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I agree that right now it's better to practice on the streets or in a dance session or meetups or whatever, and go
Yeah.
clubbing or raving sometimes, but it's not necessary. Right now, I prefer not going to party and have a good session during the day than the other way.
Yeah. I'll say it like this: like if you like breakdancing, you're not only gonna breakdance when there's a breakdancing event, right?
Yeah.
You're not just gonna go to a special place just to dance. You're gonna go where you want to go. You know, doesn't matter where you are. Dance is in your heart. It's where the home is. And that can be anywhere. So,
So, when did you start to think about start merging other styles? Now that you mentioned break, when did
mhm.
you start to see that you wanted to embrace more styles in your personal style than just shuffling? And you,
so through
yeah.
sorry. So through like growing up, looking at like dancing and what dancing stands for and the different elements of dancing, you can tell there's a lot of different elements depending on what dance style it is. You know what I mean? Um, with jerking, it was footwork based. Um, and it was a very flavorful style. Light feet it was the same type of like, it was also like a footwork based,
Mm-hmm.
um, dance style, but it had like, you were using the whole body. You know what I mean? And I realized through like hearing songs like house, if we get a little bit faster, like hard style, reverse bass, trash house, hard house,
Yeah,
techno,
trance music.
drum code. You know, um, some genres are continuous, right?
Mm-hmm.
To where you can just keep out throwing moves. As to where if you hear like a house song, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's certain parts in the song where it's gonna make a certain sound.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, you do a certain thing. That's called musicality. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So once like I thought about it in my head, like when I went to my first like meetup, I was like, I know this song. I'm gonna pin drop at this time, at this particular part of the song. And like when I did it, it worked. You know what I mean? It just felt natural to do. And from there, it just made me think that like as long as I keep the core elements of what shuffling is, which is T-step and running man, if I'm able to stay on beat and keep it consistent, and always fall back onto the core elements and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, this could be an evolution of a style.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a new style. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It could be a beautiful thing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's super interesting because what you said about having these core elements always present, because when you start to mix other styles in shuffling,
Mm-hmm.
or try to develop like different steps which are not the basics, many people start to stop dancing shuffle. For example, I saw many people in some battles stop, do some popping, and then come back to shuffling, or stop, do some house and back to shuffling, and these kind of things. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay because you're bringing a different style, but the good work and the hard work is to make that happen without the people noticing that you're stopping, doing another thing, and coming back to the shuffle.
Yeah, you gotta make it flow.
Yeah, yeah. For example, you mentioned the running man and the T step. Like this, the
Mm-hmm.
technique and the mechanics of these steps are very are very unique from shuffle. You have also running man in other styles, but in shuffling we have the stomping, and in hip hop or house dance they don't do the running man with the stomp. Like they don't
Mm-hmm.
do this big stepping.
Mm-hmm.
We do that. So
Yeah.
or we also do a lot of hopping when we want to move around very fast. Like with two T steps, we have moved like 5 meters. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
because we are hopping and we're not like sliding in the ground. Like when we do the normal T step, that we are shuffling in the ground, we are dragging our foot
Mm-hmm.
in the ground. It doesn't lift up. So
Yeah.
these elements are things that are very characteristic from shuffle. If we take that away, it's super easy to lose mm, your flow in your round. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
if it's on a cipher in a battle, you're dancing alone. It doesn't matter. It's not a tip for battling, or just it's just if we want to merge things. This is very important what you said, to have these core shuffle elements that you always have to have present, because if not, it looks like you're stopping dancing shuffle and you're doing another thing and then coming back, and this looks
Yeah.
really ugly. And
Like two different dance styles.
yeah,
Yeah.
for some
Yeah.
people that is not very experienced in dancing, for them maybe it looks like something different because it's not like the typical running man. But I recommend to people to see shuffle not as a style that only has running man and T step, and you have to bring up other things, but you have to bring other things within these characteristics of the shuffle. So, what were the issues that you had, or the first problems when you started to mix up jerking and light feet with shuffling, for example?
Um, like problems with like what other people are saying, or
No, for
problems that I
example,
was having.
when you went to practice, and you, for example,
Mm,
wanted to insert a light feet, I don't know, pattern or some jerking steps, and have it everything well merged with this shuffle, these T steps, these running mans.
mm-hmm.
What were these first attempts, and which problems did you face merging these different styles?
Um, hmm. Well, the only problem that I can see when, because in my opinion, shuffling is very compatible with a lot of footwork based styles.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
the the only difficulty you would probably have is if you don't know what the song is.
Hmm.
Uh, and if you're doing like a certain skill switch of like a style,
Yeah.
it would be hard to like be on like possibly on beat or like show musicality that way
Mm-hmm.
stuff, because we like with certain genres we know how the beat goes, right? um but other than that, if you're doing like big flashy moves,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not gonna look good if you're not on beat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's say, like I'm T-stepping and I'm shuffling. I know there's certain parts gonna go in the song, and I do like a windmill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I don't go back into like the T-step or the running man off beat, it's not really gonna look that good.
Yeah.
You just went from shuffling to breaking
Yeah,
back to
because
shuffling.
because maybe
Not hybrid. Not
if you
hybrid.
do the windmill properly, but you don't end on the beat and with a
Mm-hmm.
stomping or with a T-step position, and you come back again to doing the T-step, it's what you said. It looks incomplete, and it looks, maybe you did
It
the
looks
windmill
it looks
properly,
separate.
but it looks separate. It looks like you stopped. So,
Yeah.
for example, uh, now that you mentioned a windmill, I try. I have a break move that I started to practice 1 year or 2 years ago. I don't know, because
Oh,
with this
nice.
2020, I don't know if it counts or if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
count. But I think
Mm-hmm.
within this last year, and one very important thing for me was to end with a stomping, or maybe if I have like a good power and I can do stomping, because I had
Mm-hmm.
like, I think it's called the clock. Sorry if you're a breakdancer and I'm not saying the step correctly, which is
I'm
going to the
not.
ground. I have like have your leg all straight, jump it with the other leg, and coming back again to the front. So I
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
so the thing for me was to uh, do the jump, do all the leg spin, and when it was coming to the front, have my knee up so I can
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
stomp and go back against a running man. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, this was really funny because another shuffler from here from Barcelona who did some breaking in the past, he told me, you're doing the clock wrong, because you need to have like your leg more straight, and you need to end the step here. And I told her, but I don't want to do the breaking clock. I want to do the clock into shuffling. So for
Mm-hmm.
doing it
Yeah.
properly into shuffling, I need to bend my knee here, because if not, I can't do the stomping. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not taking the step the exact same way. It's trying to take something, bring it into here. What makes shuffling shuffling? It's the running
Yeah.
man, it's the step, the stomping, this shuffling, this hopping. There's a lot of things that are very core and very foundation in shuffle. So this is the way it works. So we need to make other things shuffle. If it's other dance
Yeah.
steps, what makes our steps shuffle steps, and try to replicate these characteristics into other steps.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it in my head, like if you were doing the clock, usually like when I don't know if you like ever noticed in my videos, but usually like if I'm going to do a certain like a dance style switch, I'll do the move and then I'll do a spin back into the running man or the T-step. So it's like writing a sentence and the spin being the period. And then when you go back to your T-step, you're starting a new sentence. You know what I mean? Because like some people will do a move and then it'll kind of just make it awkward and then they'll just go back to running man or like T-step, as to where if you did the move and then did a spin back into the running man, it's kind of like a reset, right? And it kind of just all blends together
Yeah.
if you're having trouble blending it all together like that. So
It's like you have some movement which starts something from something different, and you do the same movement to close or something similar, which makes you have some context and helps you transition to one
yeah,
to another.
I feel like spins are very important when it comes to that.
Yeah, actually, spins are something very foundation in shuffling because people start to do like these fast spins, which it's bringing your feet together and spinning like there's really fast spins, like spinning, doing the running man, doing the T steps on the ground, the kicks, everything. So so this is something really helpful in terms of how the energy works, in terms of doing more transitions. So actually, spins is something. A spin is a spin. Spins are not steps. A spin is a spin. You turn around, 360 or half a spin or whatever you want. But this, you can apply spins to with whatever you want. So this is what you said about the spins is really, it's really interesting because when you're doing a spin, your attention is on actually more on spinning than that in the step you're doing. So maybe it's a good point to do a transition, which maybe you don't have it that clean or it's difficult to you to doing it without
Yeah,
the spin.
you can use the spin
Yeah,
as
to
like
drag
kind
the
of like a
attention
training wheel.
from the other
Yeah,
people to the
yeah,
spin instead of this technique that maybe is not that
yeah,
you don't have trained it enough. Okay,
yeah.
so this is super interesting because right now I want you to mention some people that right now in the scene do you like because they have developed a unique style. Because right now with all this social media uh, going on, there's a lot of people that want to like to find the steps, copy them, just do choreographies. Well, it's okay if you just want to do choreographies. I always say that you have the freestyle and the choreographies. It's good if you want just to freestyle. It's good if you just want to do choreographies. The issue comes when you just learn in choreographies, but you want to you have a super crazy freestyle level, and but you're just willing to learn, close the steps, and not learn other styles to level up your shuffling or develop your own style, your own dancing capabilities. So right now, which dancers do you see and do you think that they have done like their homework in this way, having worked with other styles or developing, trying to develop the shuffle? Which
Mhm.
which dancers do you like? Like, tell me. It's not like your top favorite dancers, but which dancers do you like out there?
Um, so I think this dude, I think he was one of the showcase winners. I think like Harry, uh, it's like Harry, and then it's like his last name starts with an F. He also does electro too. You know what I'm talking about?
In the showcase league, I know Harry.
Yeah,
Yeah, Harry. He was
yeah, yeah.
he
Harry,
got to the top uh, 32. I think he went.
yeah,
He didn't go further.
yeah. That dude right there. He's been on his stuff because he's also incorporating electro too, right? By itself, and it looks good. Um, his shuffling, his shuffling looks solid. Um, I think if you ever thought of mixing that together, I think it would really be like really special, to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like you got all these people that dance, but like there's like a certain handful of people that really like flourish in the dance.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like one of those people. You also got to look into America, the people who went past the norm of shuffling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we look at Cali, you got Gilly and you got Lefty, right? Because they took the Cali shuffle, right, and they made something called bursting,
Mm-hmm.
which in my eyes is like a form of hybrid. But that's probably a standalone for them, so that's probably their own thing. I'm not gonna claim that, but like Gilly and Lefty, like they're very unique shufflers.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree on that.
yeah, you got Tenchi, right? Tenchi from New York.
Mm-hmm.
He uses his
He's
athleticism.
a crazy dude, man.
Yeah, he's so athletic. He uses that to his advantage when it comes to shuffling. So you don't really see a lot of people doing what he's doing.
No,
You know what I
and
mean?
he's doing it
And
very fluid, and
yeah,
I don't know how
he's
he does that.
yeah, he's been doing it for a while. It's just like this kid is just like Brocky, bro. He's like 90% muscle. You know what I mean? So with that, it's interesting to see based on like how your body performs. You can use that to your advantage to make your shuffling unique.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at Tenchi like that. You know what I mean? Um, let me see. You got D Hop, who won
Yeah.
the first FTS competition. Also very athletic. Um, has adopted the FTS rocking style.
Mm-hmm.
The traditional OG style very well. Um, and with him being so athletic, he can stay on beat, he can mix it up, he can throw a little bit of Miami step in there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He can throw a little bit of house in there. The kids got good tools. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they keep it shuffling. It doesn't look like they're jumping to house, and they're like they integrate everything really well.
mhm.
In my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the people that like I'm thinking about right
Mm-hmm.
now.
And you
Yeah.
mentioned about this bursting style.
Hmm.
I have kind of an issue with the bursting, not about this style, but about what do we consider a shuffle style. Actually, like I don't consider myself in any particular style. Like I don't say I'm shaper or I do Melbourne or I do Malaysian or whatever you want to, whatever style
Hmm.
you're referring to. But for example, the cutting shapes, the Melbourne, the Malaysian, the Kali, the Russian, they are all styles that have developed within a scene, a culture in a particular area, and because how was the shuffle dance there, the style and these characteristics came up. But when I heard about the bursting, which was shuffle but with hip hop elements, or I don't know if there's more styles going around in this bursting, but when I was told the explanation of what the bursting style was, I wasn't sure that this was a particular shuffle style, because it was just shuffling maybe Kali with hip hop elements. So like how does this affect, like you're mixing with hip hop because it's your particular style, but it's not something evolved just within the shuffling. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
No, you are. I got you. Um, let me try to explain this in the clearest way possible. So I get what you're saying, right? So like when they transition to the hip hop, it steers too much away from the shuffling. Is that what you're saying, right?
No,
Is
well,
that the
no,
problem you have?
it's because, for example, like if I, for example, you talked about mixing shuffle and electro. If I, for example,
Mm-hmm.
mix shuffle and electro, and because I dance shuffle and I dance electro, and I know how to mix them to and make it look like I'm shuffling. And this doesn't create for me another style, which is you, electro shuffle, for example. Let's make it this style, electro shuffle style, and you can dance Kali style or mass style or electro shuffle style. Like mixing two styles for me, it doesn't create another subgenre of shuffle. It helps you develop your own personal style, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not something cultural. Like for me, the subgenres are very cultural, and for me they need to have a culture context, which, for example, in
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia and Melbourne the style is this way because the music and where people was dancing. In Russia the same, in Cutting Shapes in London the same, in California the same. So it all happened because a context, a culture context. And when I
Mm-hmm.
hear about bursting, it's not some, I'm just, it's just about the terminology and why I don't end to understand why is recognized, or I don't know how many people recognize it as like another style
Yeah.
when it's just
So
mixing shuffle with hip hop.
yeah. So basically, I mean, if you look at like Lefty's recent videos, he incorporates a lot of crump into his shuffling, and it gives you this raw feeling. You know, he knows what the dude knows what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and like I said before, when it comes to musicality, um, when it comes to like a certain part of the song where it's gonna make the like a sound, right? Um, he moves his body to those certain parts of the song, right? And then he ends it. He ends it and then goes back into his shuffling. That's not so much different than like you would call bursting. You know what I mean? Because they're dancing, right? They're dancing certain part of the song, right? You do something, boom, you feel that. You feel that energy
Yeah.
exchange. You know what I mean? But like where I would categorize it, right? Like I feel like there is like many styles of shuffling, but I feel like hybrid being the most outlandish, unorthodox style because it kind of steers away from normality. Um, I would put that in the hybrid section.
Yeah.
The hybrid genre. So that's just like evolution. That's just evolution of the
Yeah, yeah.
dance.
So
Yeah.
that's why for me it didn't make many sense to create another style,
Uh-huh.
which is it's just development. It's just uh, shuffling evolution.
Uh-huh.
For me, at some point when you get to name all these steps, all these styles, it's kind of useless because you end up having a lot of names, a lot of tags in many things when it's not necessary. It's not necessary. For me, for example, in Spain, in the past years, we have worked so much in the dance development. We learn from other styles. We get other top dancers in Spain to mm, to teach us things about dancing and how to develop our own style. And because we have a big influence in the Spanish community and also in Latin America because we use the same language. For me and for people here in Barcelona, which are pioneers, it was very important to don't tag everything and be more aware and acknowledged of why are we doing those things, like why this is dance developing and why is this categorized or why is not. And for example, for me it's more useful to, if I teach you a tool so you can develop a step so you can get a running man and build 5 or 10 or 20 or how the variations you want to create, than if I teach you 5 done flat variations, and I give you 5 names of these 5 steps. It goes more of this way, because when if you learn 3 styles, you're just developing your own style, and with that you're like pushing boundaries within the shuffle, because
Yeah.
shuffling was always like really close to just shuffling, and people like you, people like Lefty, people like Gilly, which are pushing boundaries in the within the shuffle, because they're very unique, and they're not very unique because who they are, is because what they practice and what they dance and what they want to learn. They want to learn things.
Yeah.
They want to do more
Yeah.
things.
When you're taught through tradition to dance a certain way, when you see it in a different way, it can confuse the person. You know, I think that's what you're going through. If you have you ever seen a video from the black and white days when like TV wasn't colorized yet? You see these people doing the Charleston, they're lifting their legs in the air. We took that and we throw that into shapes, and you can even call that an evolution. So it's not so much difference. At the end of the day, dance at its purest form, it's all connected. Dance styles, they're all connected in a certain way,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and they have their differences, right? You can put them apart and you can tell the difference. But dance in its purest form, whether it being, whether it being the same style or different styles, they're all the same in some way. We're all moving our bodies. We're moving. It's movement, and that's something that relates to every single dance style that exists in this world, So,
Yeah.
When you steer away from tradition, it's really easy to get confused and think that what you're doing uh, is not that dance style. But I think in my eyes and shit, like as long as you keep like I said before, you keep the fundamentals in, right? You make the moves look good. You're on beat. You can consider that shuffling. It's not really a hard concept to understand. These guys, Lefty and Gilly, they've been doing this for a while. They've been doing the same Cali style for a while, and when you feel like you're really good at something, and you feel like you want to like innovate things, people are going to try to do that. And the sad thing about trying to innovate and elevate a dance,
Yeah.
right, bring it to like its evolution, is that a lot of people are not going to understand you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are going to tell you that's not that dance style you're doing anymore. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to shun you and tell you that what you're doing is not correct and you should stop doing it, and unfortunately that's the price of evolution.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to understand it, and you're going to have a lot of mean people tell you that what you're doing should not be
Yeah.
done.
Because yeah, they're used to see some things, and when they see something they don't understand or they are not able to do, like in their minds, it they collapse and they say, how is this done, or why? I don't know how to do this, and this is not something I know, so this is not my dance style. Because when you see other dance styles, you understand almost nothing if you don't have any information. So kind of the same happens when you try to develop.
But like
shuffling.
how you think of bursting is how America thought of shapes when it was called shuffling back in the day. When there was like a whole bunch of misinformation being pumped out, like shapes was like the new shuffling. But meanwhile, when you saw these videos, you didn't really see any like T-step or Running Man, or it was very like light Running Man.
But
A lot of people
I
were calling that like shuffling, and it pissed America off. It pissed a lot of OGs off,
yeah, but
because
actually,
it's not what they stood for.
well, 2 things. Like my point is not that I don't understand bursting, because I see Gilly dancing, I see lefty dancing, and I see a very developed style. Like I see one of I see top dancers in the U.S. Like I don't see things that I don't understand. It's just about it was just a comment I wanted to bring up about just the terminology and the use of the name bursting, because I actually didn't have I don't have many information, so that's why I'm bringing that up, so maybe I can learn something. And if Gilly or Lefty want to DM me explaining things or whatever, that would be great.
Yeah.
And about the other thing that you said, that it when the shapes came to the scene in the US, it pissed many OGs off. Actually, when I told you that in these last months, within the last year, we found some videos that dated shuffling first in London before Australia. And in these first videos, you don't see big stompings, hard T steps. You see more the shapes style, which is and when the raves went to Australia, because they were banned in Europe, because the music was harder, it made people dance harder. Like
Yeah.
with this Malaysian style, with hard style, with hard with bounce music.
Yeah.
And actually, when the people in London retook the shuffle movement, this is when the shapes movement started with Mr. Shapes, and they have the shape cuttings incorporate, and also it it took place the house warmers and the parent house classes, which the house warmers started with Evolution and Cassidy, and then Cassidy Chaps went just on his own with the parent house. And these three things, the shape cutting ink, the house warmers, and the parent house, this was people that was dancing in London, and they had, because the music was really housey, garage UK, more soft house compared to the hardstyle music that was playing in Australia and New Zealand and these places. Like you can't dance this hard with house music or techno music. Like you can, but not this particular style, because the song is not telling you to do that. So then, like, the music has changed along the way when the time has passed. So and the music changes, so the style changes, because first the music and then we dance. So if the music changes, it ends up changing the way we dance. So when I understood why shuffling and why the shape style is like it is, like, because it the more OG style of shuffling, it's more similar to the shapes than the Melbourne shuffle, because it was the first videos. If you can see videos dated in 1980s, like people is dancing very similar to what is known to shapes nowadays. And then when it went to Australia, it started to develop this big movement, the first big communities, the most strong communities in the 90s in Australia, in Melbourne. And this is when
Yeah.
the big movement started to move. Like it was originated in London, but the big movement, the big communities, it started in Australia, and we can all agree on that. So understanding this, it makes you don't be like close-minded and be open to understand how the
Yeah.
history of shuffle is. And
Yeah.
there is many gaps in shuffling in the shuffle history, so we have to do research and let the new information be, because if you find the information and it's the past, you can change the past. So
Yeah.
if you think that Melbourne was the first place, and you find that there was shuffling in London before Melbourne, if there's videos, we can't, for example, negate that shuffling was first in London and then in
Yeah.
Melbourne. So
Yeah.
yeah, the big movement was in Melbourne after that. That's that's for sure. But in London, they kept this style very unique, and then it it came the shapes 10, 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
So when I understood that, my mind started to not like I was even started to I don't like to separate shuffle and shapes, but in some ways my mind was working better separating them in some ways. But
Yeah.
just for step knowledge, not for I don't say I'm shaper or I'm shuffling not shaper. I treat
Hmm.
them all the same. But this helps to understand and not separate everything because you're putting barriers for your dancing.
Yeah. And
So
like the thing is, like I like shapes, and I like the Running Man and T step that go with it. To because to me, in my mind, that's hybrid, you know. And the Running Man is it complements the footwork too, and vice versa. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like you know you can do like a minute video, right? Or if we just look at your video, right, from the contest from
Yeah.
there, and just look at the steps that you were doing. You're doing the Running Man, you're doing the T-step, but you're also doing the footwork. And you made it work, and you're on beat. You know
Hmm.
that to me is high. That to me is hybrid because shuffling at its core was T-step and Running Man, but it evolved to this point where you can add footwork into it and make it that much more like uh, versatile. You know,
Yeah.
so
So what do you think about this issue that is nowadays with the shuffle and shapes? Like how do you address that, and how do you think people should address that in order to don't lose anything good
listen, man.
any from from any sides?
Listen. Um, if anybody's reading this, right, a lot of people, a lot of people, um, take. A lot of people are told to think a certain way without doing their research, right? So, for people who's been doing this for a long time, and for people who are hasn't been doing this for a long time and are younger and have listened to the OGs and tell them this is how things are, this is how things should be without doing research, they go off the OGs like me and tell me how things should be. Um, just if you're asking an OG for history, do try to listen to them. But at the end of the day, um, they're probably going to tell you their version of what they think shuffling is. So for these, when you ask somebody for a history lesson, there's a possible chance that they're just telling you what they were taught, and not what is the truth.
Hmm.
So if you want shuffle history, there's videotapes dating back to like Melbourne days and stuff. Just do your own research, and even if you listen to like a certified OG, still do your research because there's a lot of there's too much disconnection in the American shuffling
Hmm.
society. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do your own research. Feel me?
Yeah.
Regardless if you're listening to an OG or not, do your own research.
Yeah, but for example, uh, I'm not an OG from shuffle because I'm like mid generation, I would say, because I've been 7 years, but I'm not a new generation, but I'm neither
When
an
I
OG
when I met
generation.
when I met you, how long were you in shuffling?
So I started in 2014. So we met at 2019. I was in my 5 year into
Oh,
shuffling.
okay, okay, I got you.
So, but
I got
in
you.
this point, when we met in Barcelona, when you came, we'll talk about
Hmm.
this trip later.
Yeah, yeah,
When we met, I had only a year and a half of hard work and having the mindset of okay, let's work on shuffle properly, because from
yeah,
this
yeah.
point, from this year, and when you start to take dancing with the point of view of developing the style and not just learn movements, like
Mm-hmm.
everything is exponential. When you
Yeah.
start, everything goes really slow because it's all more complex than just easy steps and just foundation steps. You start to go very deep into these steps on understanding why are they done this way. Let's take this from another style. How can we implement on this? And if you keep working, as you said, doing research on steps, on understanding why shuffling is like that, and how to take things that are very core, so this way you can evolve it. Because if you don't take conclusions, if you don't have any conclusion about what shuffling is, how are you going to evolve something that you don't know pretty well, or you just
Yeah.
have been
How are you
told
gonna make your
two
own
steps?
opinion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like what you said about history. If just an OG or a new G told you the history or how is shuffle is starting, you just
Take it
have
with a grain of salt.
one
There's a
version.
saying in America. There's a saying in America
Uh huh.
like take everything with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like don't take everything to heart. That's what I meant. So like, my bad. I cut you off.
No, no, it's
I'm
okay, it's
just
okay.
kidding.
It was a good point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because for example, right now people know shuffle because the social medias. We went to a TV show, and one of the judges told us told us that shuffle is not very known, and that we are very TikTokers nowadays. And I told you, and I was thinking, I don't tell anything, like we didn't answer because for us it made no sense, but we just I don't know. For us,
It was
we,
insulting.
I don't think it insulting because you feel insulted if you let that be an insult for you. So I was
You
like, I'm not going to put any effort to try to debate this with you because he has no information. So
you know why he probably said that though? Because he's looking at dancers like Van Secco. You know what I mean? And he's looking at people like that, and that's what he's basing shuffling off of.
yeah, but because
Meanwhile, there's this vast knowledge.
right now
You know?
people know shuffling because it's super trendy in the social medias. We can negate that. There's a lot of shuffling on TikTok. There's a lot of shuffling on Instagram. It's been more long in Instagram than in TikTok, but now it's like super trendy. These very short videos, easy choreographies, and this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in this moment, you realize that not everyone has the information, and if they don't want to do the research, they won't do. I'm sure that this guy didn't search anything about shuffling after the the TV show, and
Yeah.
okay, let's look where it is from because I'm curious. These
Yeah.
things, people, if you're listening to this and you want to dance better shuffling, you have to do research. You have to find information, and not just about define the steps and how the running man is done and how this step is done. These things are important, but it's super important to keep your mind going and asking yourself questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, for example, this podcast is not because I want to make content because of the content. It's because I want to bring here all the people I can who have a say in the shuffling, who have a lot of experience or not that experience, but I want to have a lot of information. I want to hear a lot of people. I want the people to hear a lot of this. It's not just for me to hear, it's for people to hear, right? And this will make me understand, like have a very wide vision of what shuffling is and a lot of
Yeah.
point of views, so I can take like my final conclusions. So this is actually, if you're listening to all the podcast coming up next and the first one, like you're going to understand a lot of shuffling and the culture and how is the scene. So that's why are you here, man? Because you have a lot of things to say. Okay, for the one seeing that in YouTube, you'll seeing that everything is changed. You saw image from Lostboy which got frozen and he lost connection and he had no way to come back online, and we had to reschedule the podcast to another day. So now we're doing the second half of the podcast, and we were talking about this thing that people has to keep researching and don't just let one person in their mind with just one idea. And people needs to be very active in the researching to get more knowledge and understanding about all the shuffle culture and all the scene. And that's why I'm doing the podcast, to bring a lot of people with a lot of ideas, a lot of knowledge from very specific places around the world and around different epochs about the shuffling. And I think this is super important. We mentioned that very much in the first part, but I recommend you to be aware of how important is that. And this podcast, I think it will be something incredible and very useful for people who want to hear from a lot of people, because sometimes it happens that you don't know many people. Because until I start doing my research, I didn't know many people around the world. As you start traveling, as you start moving yourself and asking people, you start to meet and know a lot of new people. And talking about travels, let's jump to our next topic, which is your travel to Barcelona. Is when you and I met for the first
Mhm.
time, and how
Yeah.
how important. We'll talk now more specific about all the competition and all that went on this Barcelona trip. But
Mhm.
how important it is for you to keep traveling and keep meeting new people from different scenes for keeping your evolution as a dancer.
It's very important because um, and I feel like it's when you're from a certain like part of the world and stuff, you don't like look at other parts of the world where they're also doing shuffle. It's easy to think that you're the best country, or what you're doing is only the right way, which is not correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've I've looked at many different shuffle videos, shuffling, cutting shapes from different parts of the world, and what's very beautiful about that is like you see the distinct differences between styles. Russian, Ukraine, Cali, Florida, New York, Colombia, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see the little differences between styles because of someone that's influenced them in that uh, area of the world and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, I think it's very important to know that you should be aware and respect the subtle differences of different styles, and not be ignorant um, and prideful of the fact that the way someone dances, you may not like the way they dance, but you should also respect it if they put the time and the effort in to make their own style and make it original. All
Mm-hmm.
right, man.
Mm-hmm. And when you came to Spain, was it the first time?
First time, yeah, first time I ever went to Spain.
And what did you think, or what did you see in Spain that was different from the place you were coming from?
Well, as soon as I got, as soon as I got at the airport and I saw you and Shooflees, when you got on that train and you started explaining me your philosophy of the way you shuffle, I found it very interesting because with Vice, it counteracted what America OGs believed in, So I was very interested in what you guys um, thought about shuffle and how you do shuffle, and it's honestly it's the community that I wish existed um, in parts like New York or Cali or Florida,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's such a younger crowd out there, which leaves a lot of room for improvement. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, there's a lot of youngins that are claiming to be like doing master classes, but like in my eyes, if you ever done any type of martial art, you're not like you don't start as a white belt and then go 3 years and then you're a fucking excuse my language, a red belt, and then you're not claiming to be a master. No, you have to put the time in. You have to put the time and the experience in. It's hierarchy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But your community is very beautiful over there. It seems like Shufli is a big, big, big influence over there. But like I was saying before, like you can listen to somebody on how you think shuffle is, but at the end of the day, you should do your own research. Because
Hmm.
they may be talking about something that they feel like they're right in, but you'll do research and you'll find something different. Um, so yeah, it's a beautiful, welcoming, open community, and I hope to come back very soon.
Hmm. One thing that in Spain we took really serious is to acknowledge that shuffle dance has to improve
Yeah.
professionally,
Mm.
and this means that the style of the dance, the way you dance, and the way that the community is going to start dancing is going to change so much, and
Yeah.
for that you have to embrace new information
Mm.
and wanting to ask that, because we, for example, at least because I at the time that I was when I got really good in shuffling, I was a student from Chuflis, and then I
Mm.
started to become more of a par-
Independent.
uh, not independent, but like a partner. Like we both researched information, we both were we taking new conclusions, and like it was more of uh, I teach him things, he teaches me things. But at the beginning, when I didn't know much, he was the one that told me, okay, I'm trying to develop the shuffle, because
Mm.
I arrived to a point. When I started shaping. It was my third, fourth year that I was into shuffling, and I saw like new moves. And for me, it wasn't, oh, this is different, I don't like it. I say, okay, new moves, let's go.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
more
And
repertory, more
that's
moves.
yeah, that's another fact I forgot to say. There's some with your community. There's always something you can learn from someone else, right?
Hmm.
You can be a shuffler of 10 years, 20 years plus years. There's always going to be something new that you can learn from someone else.
Hmm.
They might not have as much shuffle experience as you, but they can still teach you something. You can probably teach them a lot more, but it's just that one little move, that one little tidbit that can make you level up that much more.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we shouldn't, we shouldn't be too prideful. We can learn something from everyone. That's something I noticed when I went to Spain.
Yeah. So what happened there is that I started to see that it doesn't matter the steps you learn or the moves you learn, that this will never be enough. Like dancing is not about moving. Dancing is about understanding your your dance, like why the running man is done the way it's done. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not it has mechanics that you have to learn, like mechanically. But if you want to take that running man to a next level, you have to understand the deeper the better why the running man is like that. So
Mm.
when and it's not about learning moves, it's about learning tools, why other dancers in hip hop or other styles are that good and we aren't that good, because shuffle exists since the 80s, and why hip hop is so much better or popping is so much better than in complexity and in dancing level. It's so much better than shuffling. Why is that? And you start asking them why, how they develop these things, and this is when shufflers started to learn, like how to improve the shuffle, but respecting the core things. That is what we told before in the first part of the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
is that we have to respect that and then improve. So I think that getting stuck to things that you do and not letting your mind get new information, I think this makes people end up stopping dancing, because you get stuck and you don't understand why aren't you getting better. And maybe it's because maybe you aren't even noticing that, but you're not letting information in or discriminating other movements or dance styles within the shuffle. It's not
Mm-hmm.
letting you
Level
go.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I completely agree.
so for example, this thing, let's jump right to the competition. And for example, in this competition, we noticed very much that starting making events in Spain, it helped really much to people to wanting to get new information, because when the competition started, we because Shuflis and I organized the first competitions and the Shuffle Showcase team, but we mostly were the ones like organizing, traveling, and doing the workshops and these kind of things. For us, it was very important to make people understand that even though you start to dance different, it's not bad. It's just some improvement. And when you learn something new, you start to get a little worse than what you are, because you're like starting something from zero, which is a new tool or a new concept that you're working on. And there is going to be some time to internalize that and then level up. And we emphasized really much that the competitions that we were organizing is they're not, if you win, you're not the best dancer. Like you danced the better. Like you were the best dancer this day in this
Yeah.
competition, in these
Yeah.
rounds,
Yeah.
because all the music, all the hype, all the things can make you maybe step up a lot more than maybe you usually dance alone by yourself. But for us, it was really important for people to make the people know to respect the people. If you hype one dancer, you have to hype the other dancer, because then the competition, in environmentally wise, is a,
Yeah.
let's talk clear, it's a fucking shit, because maybe if a dancer goes and the other one gets hyped because it's more, I don't know, popular, or people likes it more, and then they're beginner and they face this most experienced dancer, and if they don't get hyped, they won't get back to a competition, or maybe even they give up on shuffling.
Yeah.
And it's what's really important for us to make
Show
that
love.
clear, so the new beginners, or the new people going to contest for the first time, because most of the people was first time going to contest, when they started to go and see the environment, and even though they didn't win, they loved this day and this experience. This is what made then, in this competition that you came, make people from all over Spain come to Barcelona this one day, because it was 100 dancers listed in this, in one-on-one competition,
Yeah.
just one
A
line,
lot of people.
one line, 100 dancers in the pre-selections, and 32 were going into the bracket, into the 30 top 32 bracket. So
Yeah.
what did you feel about this competition environment? Because many people that came from abroad, they told us that it was really different and really good compared to what they had. I don't know what people have in their communities, because only the ones that I traveled to. So what do you think? What did you see in this competition?
So yeah, I noticed the type of atmosphere, like you were saying before. Everybody gets hyped. Everybody shows love. I feel like a lot of people, like that's how competitions should be, right? You get everybody hyped up because, like, if you're dancing versus someone else, and everybody and all eyes are on you, and the pressure's on you, and nobody's really hyping you up, you're gonna think you're a bad dancer. You know what I mean? So it's important to show love, get that person hyped, because, like you said, it's gonna make that person come back and be better, because people like their dancing when they were screaming, when they were yelling, when they were showing love. You know what I mean? That type of love and is unmatched. You know what I mean? And I feel like in a lot of competitions, you don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to the turnout, right? I'm really glad. I'm really glad that happened. You know, because when I did my competition, we were dancing, but it was like kind of quiet. You do a move, and everybody was like, "Oh, blah blah blah," like as to where like everybody's constantly,
Yeah,
constantly hyping it up. You know what I mean? And you need that constant like
atmosphere.
pressure,
Yeah.
yeah, atmosphere. You know what I mean? Because it's very healthy it's very healthy for competitions. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like you're in a fight club and everybody's just looking at you and everything's dead quiet. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's very important that competitions have that. I feel like it's a key element of it.
And it's it's super for us. It was really clear because many people didn't have the confidence to step in the competition and say, okay, let's do it, because the showcase league in 2019, this competition you came to, it was
Hmm.
really huge. Like
Yeah,
it's a really big competition for shuffling because professionally it's very it's so young in many countries. Like there's not many
exactly.
people
Yeah.
or there or big professional competitions or events. So for us, it was a really big step up because the past year, 2018, we did like a small competition
Hmm.
in our studio here in Barcelona, and there was like 40 dancers and like no it was good amount of people, but the next year it was so crazy. Like we were blown away by all the people that came and all the atmosphere that was created.
Yeah.
And I don't know in the
It was
States
crazy.
how's the competition is seen right now, because I don't have much information. I see some on now it's very popular to do online competitions,
Mm.
but I don't count that as a as
We never. Yeah, we never
real
had.
competitions.
We never had a big. Um. So there were supposed to be. I think it was going to be FTS, Star 67, and another crew,
Hmm.
and they're going to have an in person competition like you guys,
Hmm.
because there's hasn't really been like um, in person competitions
Hmm.
through the years of shuffling and stuff. It's all been online, and with online, it kind of has this awkward feeling about it. You know what I mean? It's not like people are around you; they're hyping them up. No, you're just by yourself outside. You got to create that atmosphere for yourself. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Which can be kind of hard. So that was supposed to happen a little bit before the next TSL, but COVID. So
Hmm.
yeah.
And oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Um, oh man, I hate when that happened. Like I had something to say, and when you start to call this FTS and start
Yeah.
67, uh, my mind went to another place. Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to say something for everyone who maybe didn't go to the competition, and maybe they are nervous or they think that they're not ready yet. The thing is that in competitions, you will never be the most like better prepared. Like in this moment, like when the competition is happening, you are in this moment. You won't be able to be more ready for this moment because you say maybe okay next year, but next year it won't be that moment. It will be the next year because you can go to both and be also more prepared for the next one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it doesn't affect. Well, it does affect if you present, if you list and you participate in today's competition. Let's say it's today is a competition day. If you go today to a competition, you're going to be so much better dancer in the next one because you'll get experience. If you lose, you're going to see why did you lose, and you can ask the judges, what did you see that I could improve in for my next competition, and these things, and you get more confidence. And when people sees, at least in Spain, when people saw this atmosphere and people hyping them and all this kind of stuff, they get an experience that is telling them come back to the next competition and train, because if you dance better you can have this experience two times or
Yeah.
three times depending on how
Yeah.
many rounds you go for the tournament. And don't get very obsessed
Discouraged. Yeah.
if you don't win, because in this competition out of 100 only one wins. Even though you're
Yeah.
really good, it's so difficult to win because you have to do so many good rounds because people there is going to dance at a very high level. So let's talk more about specific things about dancing that you saw in this competition, because for me, in competitionally wise, I think it's the biggest professional competition I've seen. I don't say there hasn't been any anymore, because, for example, I know in China they organize a lot of big events, but they're like in their own. But I haven't seen many of them. I've seen some, but taking shuffle at this professional level, I think it's the most professional competition nowadays. And
Uh-huh.
and what was your experience when you arrived to the venue, when you were judging the pre-selection, the battles? Like, talk us through how was this day for you? How was this experience for you?
It was definitely, it was not overwhelming, but it passed my expectations. I've seen videos of shuffle showcase competitions before, and it's always seemed it's like been on the below 100 people like line and shit. But like when I walked in and I see everybody here, I'm like, oh my god, my hand, like this is gonna be a big turnout, and it's crazy. It's something that's really you've never really seen happen in the U.S. Um, this is probably has been, if I had to guess, it was probably the biggest shuffle tournament like to date. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know or have seen any other competition that's had like 100 people
Mm-hmm.
plus. Um, but basically though, it was a competition like more shapes based, right? Because that is your guys' forte. That's what you guys do. Um, Point system was interesting from 1 to 10, seeing how they ranged. You had a lot of beginners. You could tell who's been doing it a little bit more than the other person.
Mm-hmm.
You had people that came outside of Barcelona, like Feeney,
And Fogchild, also from
and
the US.
Fogchild from the U.S. Right? Um, they got to experience that, and they were just they were just astonished by how many people came
Mm-hmm.
and the atmosphere in the room. Um, it was definitely a lasting experience that I'll never forget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great time.
And let's talk about the battles.
Hmm.
Were you expecting like this, like, well, we talked about the atmosphere, but in the dancing part, like, did you expect like this level? Not talking about a very high level, but what did you have some expectations about the how was going people to dance like, and did you get surprised or didn't you? Because actually,
Almost.
sorry, you're talking about like in Spain there's a lot of shapes, and that is, well, because Spanish community is very influenced because Mark Torre and Guerrero, they brought a lot of people into the dancing because they got a lot of followers in on Instagram.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so what actually did you see that you said, I've never seen that before, or I didn't expect to see this thing in a tournament at this stage of shuffle?
It was, to me, a lot of it was just people like not taking the comp too seriously and just have fun. You saw a lot of experience, like shuffle shapers. Like Feeney. You had what was it, Fubi, right?
Ruby.
Bobby, Bobby. Um, you had Fogchild really represented, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he got to see um like not the birthing ground, but like where shapes really shines and where it can evolve in Barcelona, right? That's the birthing ground right there. Um, he saw all these talented people, you know what I mean? And I think it's important that, you know, to show people that don't live in Barcelona to see that, because they can show that person how big shuffling can be with other than a Running Man and T-step. Shuffling can be so much more, and I feel like with this competition, it showed that, and it showed all the talent of what shuffling can evolve to, and what it can really be on a large scale. So there's a lot of talent there, definitely a lot of talent.
And what do you think that needs to happen, for example, in the US, to start competitions like this to happen? Do you think that someone has to step up and start, like, don't being afraid to organize these kind of competitions? Because once they start, they're coming one after another. Like, the most difficult is to start, and once you see that people likes it, and people see that many people is going to these places, this is like a snowball that it starts spinning, and it gets bigger, bigger and bigger. And what do you think that needs to happen in the US to start these competitions?
I think important faces in the shuffle community should step up and hold the competition, because if a very influenced individual like a shuffler puts on a competition, a lot of people are going to think like, well, um, this isn't no like ragtag bullshit competition. This is a serious competition. And if you have a lot of cred, right, like Cali does, um, people are going to come. So like if that competition, because when Lefty was hosting that competition along with like other Cali shufflers, a lot of people from the U.S. that didn't live in Cali were gonna fly over to Cali just for that competition. You know what I mean? So that's what should happen. Like, we should get all the important people in shuffling, have them promote a competition, right? And it's all up to that person if you want to show up or not. You know what I mean? But as long as we have important faces in the shuffle community come together and host a big community where we can all come together, show love, show that atmosphere that I saw in Barcelona, you can really see more of a healthier side of the competition of shuffling.
Yeah, one thing that that happened to Shuflis and I is that we weren't known dancers, like big known dancers in Spain. If you ask people, maybe our names could pop out, and also there's people that know us mostly in Barcelona, but we weren't like a big reference in dancing, or because our hosting side of doing the competitions and traveling and doing the competitions all around Spain, then doing the showcase league in Barcelona, inviting all the people to Barcelona, and then going to Russia. We went to also to Russia, and we did a tour in Latin America. We went to Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Argentina. Doing this travels and organizing things for the people, competitions, meetups, workshops. This is where people starts to look at you not as someone that, okay, I like the way he dances, that if you're likable and people like your dance style, they're going to follow you and to have you in mind when they think of a good dancer and a shuffle reference. But we got very known because we started to organize these big competitions and doing things for the people. Like, we weren't just focusing on publishing a lot of videos and this kind of stuff. This thing came later, at least in my case, because now I'm uploading more videos on Instagram and I wasn't very frequent in posting. But people knew me because I was hosting the competitions, and I also was practicing a lot and dancing, and I was a good dancer. And when you travel and you go to meet the people and you go to competitions, and this kind of things starts to create something around you that talks that you want, like, you are investing in the shuffle. You're investing your time, you're investing resources, you're investing your energy, you're investing your money. And when people start to see someone this dedicated to shuffling, they start to like you, even though they don't like your dance. Like, they can't see you as a bad person because you're making a lot of good things happen. And if you're dedicating a lot of time into training and developing your style, people is going to like your dancing too. So this is
Yeah.
mostly what happened to Shuflis now, because like, we don't have big Instagram pages. Like, now Shuflis has 7K, I have 8K. It's not a big Instagram account, but
Yeah.
within the shuffle community, almost everyone who is active and knows people within this industry knows us. And that's why all the things we did. So if you want to host a competition, if you're not that big, like Van Seco, for example, who is almost 1 million followers on Instagram, maybe you can talk with these people and make them come to your event and maybe participating or just coming for whatever you want, and maybe get their help to get your voice out and get people to know the tournament. Because, for example, we talked and we collaborated with Mark Tor, for example, who had a big Instagram page, to get more people to our tournaments. Maybe if it only brings, I don't know, 10 people, it's 10 people more. Everybody counts in these events. This is our philosophy. Everybody counts and should be hyped and should be one more of the big family of these
Yeah.
days.
I agree.
Okay, so after that, let's talk about a little bit of current things happening. Well, for the ones who don't know, we were talking about this tournament. I didn't say that because Lostboy came to Barcelona to be a judge of this tournament. We haven't mentioned that, and that's why we were talking about his experience and what did he think and what did he see. So let's talk about more about current things. We're still in the middle of a pandemic situation worldwide, and how is that affecting in the US in the dance movement? Not about all the society, because I think every country has their own like problems, and no country is safe right now, and no country is having normal life. But how did it affect to the dance, like to the meetups, to the move with people, dance with people, having parties to maybe go dancing? How is that affecting nowadays?
Well, at first, nobody was dancing, and as time went on, it was only online. And then as more time went in, and when COVID started to be more of a controlled thing, you started to see meetups with a controlled amount of people. So somebody would make a meetup and be like, this would be like the person limit of the meetup. Now we act like it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? People still wear masks. Some people don't wear masks. You know what I mean? Now, currently, it just seems like everything seems to be normal. It's not normal, but everybody's acting like it is.
Mhm.
You know,
I-
um,
If I
you got people.
uh-huh.
You got what happened?
No. I just wanted to ask if in the US it's not mandatory to wear a mask. I think they can't
It
obligate you to wear a mask.
it's if you're going inside a store, like they won't give you a service unless you wear a mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, then you have cringe white people who like don't believe in putting on a mask at all, which causes problems for other people. But most of the time, if you're at a dance class, it's good etiquette and it shows respect that you have a mask on. And it's hard because like when you go to a dance class, like your mask, like 5 minutes in, it's like soaking wet. It's like you're
Yeah.
waterboarding yourself. You know what I mean? So it sucks. Um, but it's at this point, like it's like pulling your pants up. You know what I mean? So people don't see your underwear. Like it's good. It shows good manners to have a mask on. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Um, but also we're at a time where it's nobody really is gonna scold you for like not wearing a mask when it comes to the meetup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's normal. It's not normal. You know what I mean? It's awkward. It's a weird. It's a weird part of the
And
shuttle community in the U.S. right now.
how you also in the US you were locked in lockdown, like you couldn't go outside of your home, were you
We
in?
we could go outside if we wanted to. It wasn't like Australia where like if you got caught outside you would hit with a fine or anything like that. It wasn't anything crazy like that. We were just told that we should stay in our homes, you know.
Mhm.
So
In
that.
Spain we were obligated to be at home for 2 months.
Mm.
Like
And
you
if you got caught outside, you would get in trouble.
you could only go outside for go for go to the supermarket or go to the to get some medicine, and if you or if you had a dog, so you could walk the dog. But for example, there was some hours that you couldn't go outside. I think, like for example, for going, and I don't think if it was a restriction hour when we were locked down, but after that, for example, when we went when the lockdown had ended, we had like certain hours that we couldn't be on the streets, or and this for example, well, Spain did a lot of different state had a lot of different stages which you could go to the street without masks, then mandatory mask again, then partially lockdown, like in the night you couldn't be on the streets, and
Yeah.
right now we don't have this anymore with this night lockdown, but we still have to wear a mask anywhere. If you're alone, it doesn't matter. For
Mm.
some things, well, if you do sports, you can take it off. If, for example, if we are dancing, we can take it off. In closed spaces, you have to wear it, as you said. If you're in a dance studio, you have to wear
Mm.
the mask. It's a shit. Let's talk clear, but
Yeah, it's annoying, to say the least.
and and right now, you are you living in the city of New York, or you live like on the outers?
I live on the outers. I've always lived in the outers. So like when you think of like Barcelona, you think of all these buildings, and that's Barcelona. Kind of reminds me of New York City. Um, but that's pretty much what New York City is. Like all buildings, no like hardly any trees unless you go to Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
But up here, I live where you know, I mean, like where it's all country. You know what I mean?
You're stopping the camera. Oh
I
yeah.
look at this. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
Like
Yeah.
it's you know
Yeah.
it's like country. It's like country. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't as bad as well. Like if you were living in New York City and there was like COVID, then you know it was scary. But
yeah,
yeah,
here you are more relaxed.
yeah, it's still scary, but it was less serious.
Yeah, with not having that high density of people, it helps.
Mm.
So, do you travel very often to the city to do shuffle meetups or to dance with people?
Yeah, because up here no one really shuffles. You know, I'm up here by my lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, so if I want to go to an event or if I want to go to a meetup, I have to make the commute to New York City.
And how often does it happen in New York?
Um, back in the day, you know, there would be like shuffle meetups like every other week. You know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
um, now the only people that are doing meetups right now are nameless. Shout out to Jordan. Um, and they're doing that I think every other week with that. So it's not really like so often, but it's like every other week, which is good timing in between.
Do you know how many dancers are in the New York community nowadays? Like active dancers?
Well, a lot of the OGs stopped. Um, well, a lot of the original, authentic OGs stopped. Like me being one of them. I still dance when I can. Uh, with shuffling nowadays in New York City, you just see a much uh, newer crowd. They're not so experienced. They do it more for recreational.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really take it serious. Um,
It's
so you don't really
it's like a
you don't
hobby.
really yeah you don't yeah it's a hobby. It's not really like a lifestyle for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, these are people who found out. Most of these people found out about shuffling through like going to a meetup or going to a festival. You know what I mean? It's not like how I learned about shuffling, where I was just like on YouTube one day and I just saw Francis Vo or Moonboy just shuffling from
Mm-hmm.
left and right. You know
But
what I mean?
actually, knowing shuffle because a festival or a club, I think it's better to know the style like this than maybe discovering through TikTok, because you at least, like, your mind uh, knows that the shuffle and the festival and raving scene, they go hand by
Mm-hmm.
hand. And I was expecting that most of the dancers were actually coming from the social media, from TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And right now, um, well, actually not with COVID. I know there's not many festivals going out there, but in the US, for example, the festival culture is really 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 good, and there's a lot of festival throughout the year. Because, for example, in Spain, there's not that big festival culture. In summer, there are festivals because it's party time and summertime, and in Spain is there's good weather, so everyone wants to go to festivals and listen to music, and it's when everybody has vacation. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more often to people to discover shuffle in a festival in the US because there's more festivals, or do you see that most of the people discover shuffle throughout the social medias?
Mm-hmm. No. What was the question? Sorry.
So
um,
right now in the US, is there more people that knows that discovers shuffle in festivals or raves or clubs than people discovering by the social media, or you don't
um,
know very much?
if I had to guess, uh, more people are finding about. Well, like how social media is.
Yeah.
It, one famous video can go viral, and everybody in the world can know about it. So when it comes to shuffling, it's a no-brainer. A lot of people are going to know about shuffling through social media than
Mhm.
actual in-person um,
Yeah.
in-person situations like a festival or a meetup. You know what I mean? So it's definitely more social media.
Yeah, it makes sense because obviously the reach of the social media is huge compared to what a festival has. Like, a festival has has an amount of people that can fit in the space,
Yeah,
and in the social media you can reach to almost everyone around the
yeah,
world. And
yeah.
do you think that people who discover the shuffle in these festivals are more likely to end up asking about the dancing? Because when you are in the festival, you're both like these people. Do you remember the first part of the podcast that we said that when you meet someone in a shuffle meetup, maybe you don't know
Mhm.
him or her, but you have the shuffle in common because you both are there. Like in the festivals, it kind of the same happens because you are in this festival, both of you, because you like this music, and
Yeah,
then you see the dance. I think
yeah,
you should be more likely to ask and maybe, how is this step
yeah,
done, or maybe ask if where do they dance regularly, than maybe just watching a shuffle video, and because you can swipe and have another video of a meme or whatever joke or whatever stupid video pops on your social media screen.
Yeah, I mean, before COVID, that's how a lot of people found out about shuffling through festivals and events. You know, if they weren't following someone on social media who was doing shuffling, they found it out through festivals. Seeing somebody randomly do it and then be like, "Oh, I want to learn that." You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's never like been by accident on
Yeah.
like YouTube or anything like that.
Okay, so we're arriving to the end of the podcast. For the last two things, I'm doing this. I did this in the first podcast too. So two things. The first one is, what did you learn from something from shuffling? Maybe it's a step, maybe it's a concept, maybe it's a DJ that you like his music. Something to share with all the listeners here from the Shuffle podcast that can help them in some way, or maybe a DJ who has really dope music and they can listen to this DJ. Anything that you have learned recently that helped you or or provided you crazy music, for example.
When I first started, it was always about like hard style, right? That's like high BPM, right? So like you're taught to dance very fast. Anything lower than that, it's just like it's kind of easy. Like house and like house music in New York City is very popular. If there's anything I learned, is that there's a lot of disconnection in the shuffle community. A lot of disconnection in the U.S., a lot of disconnection in the world. It's not all happy-go-lucky happiness and like positivity. There are dark sides about in this community that I feel like I've experienced. If you've been in the shuffle game long enough. So I learned in this community that not everybody is going to be your friend. And if you're trying to be something special, people are going to hate on you, say, that's not shuffling or anything like that. If you are trying to do this, just know you're not alone in that. And somebody will see your worth as a shuffler. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think this is a really good concept and advice for all the people, because when you're learning and developing something new, maybe it's your style, maybe it's a step, maybe it's whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of people that will look at you and see you as, what is this guy trying, and is he trying to be something special, or he's so different or doing weird things that not everybody does, or maybe something that it has been never been done, and like you're stepping aside from the shuffling when what you're trying to do is developing the things that are currently happening. And there's always going to be this side of people that is going to, let's call it haters, because it's actually what they do in summarizing. Like, they hate because they see something maybe different from them and they don't like things different from them, or maybe they see a potential dancer that could become better than them, and they they don't say it, but
you can feel it.
Inner in them, they know this guy is going to get so much better than them, maybe. And I always say that because when I consider that I have a really good shuffling level, not because I say that, but because I know that I've worked a lot and I've did a lot of development in the style, and I got feedback from a lot of people. Like, it's not just my judgment, it's judgment from a lot of people. For example, I can say that from my judgment and judgments from other people, that you also have a really good dance level nowadays, like within the shuffle scene. And
Yeah.
there's always a time when you're training that you aren't going to be that good because you're training, and people is going to see you like doing things that they aren't. But if you want to achieve things that not many people achieves, maybe it's a step, maybe it's a development level of this style, you need to be willing to do things that not everybody is willing to do them.
Yeah. There's leaders and then there's followers, and I'm definitely not a follower. So. Uh,
So this is super interesting because people try to learn fast. Like it's not about just moves; it's about how many time and how patient. Oh, we lost Lostboy.
Hello.
Hello, we lost
I'm
you,
back.
but you're
I'm
back.
back.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm back. Sorry.
I always tell people that they need to be patient because these things like building a good dancing level is not something that happens in a month or in 6 months. You can do a lot in 6 months, but to have a
Mm,
really 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 good and internalized dancing level is going to take you years.
yeah.
And of course in 1 year, if you work hard and you work with good information, because it's better to work smart than work hard. Obviously you'll have to work hard because
Yeah.
dancing is about working hard, but the smarter you work, the faster you learn, and the more level you're going to get. So
Yeah.
you're always going to be in transition if you keep learning, if you keep training. So
Yeah.
be patient. Don't be willing to hurry everything up to, okay, let's win the next competition. It's going to be another one if you're not if you're not in your best version. But each year you're going to be better than the last one. So be
Mhm.
patient. This is going to take some time, but enjoy the ride,
Thank
and
you.
enjoy all the process about learning. If you're listening this, have this in mind. Okay, last thing of the podcast. I've been always asking you questions, so in this
Mhm.
last, you can ask me something that maybe you're curious or maybe you want to ask to me to close the
Okay.
podcast.
Yeah. What would be your what's your main goal in shuffling? Like at the end of the day, when you're too old to dance and your legs can't move like they used to, what's something that you want to look back on and be proud of and say, I did that, and that's something I can be proud of for the rest of my life?
Mm, I have many things that keep me shuffling from in these 7 years that I've been dancing, and I have two sides which motivate me really much to keep doing what I do. I have a personal side which has a lot of goals that are personal. For example, having a very good level, going to competitions and and be really good in these events, and not because ego, because okay I'm one of the best, but because this helps me to always be training, be constant, have some goal that motivates me, just me, to keep dancing, keep training, and this way I can like be better, and have this mindset helps me a lot, because it doesn't matter if there's competitions, for example, or there is not, but because long term I want to be always in like a relevant people in this a relevant person in the scene. I need to keep training. I need to keep doing these things. Like this is the personal, like the only looking at me side. And then I have the other side, which is I think the one that mm, feels me the most, which is when I first started to organize the big competitions. Well, the big and the small competitions all make me feel the same. You feel a moment of joy when you end the competition. You see all the people faces, you see
Mm,
how happy they are, you see the maybe the best day of their lives or the best day of their year so far, and some of them crying. I'm almost, when I do big competitions or something big, I'm always crying because it means so much to me, because I see the joy of the people. Because and this, when I start to organize these big events and make people enjoy and be and having this day in mind, and and seeing that just with some preparation, with some commitment, with investing your time and resources, you can make this happen for the people, for the community. And then also this is repercuting that people is getting better level, because they see the competitions as a place to showcase them, their level and themselves. So they need to keep training. When I this feedback loop is when I noticed that if you keep organizing events and people is loving the events and are having their best time, and people is enjoying so much, and they're training and they're taking the workshops and they want to learn more about shuffling, and this loop, like I'm also too a participant. I'm also a dancer who wants to go to the competitions. So I know really good what I want to see in a competition. So I have this in mind when organizing this to people, and I end up having people enjoying it so much. This is something that, for example, Shufli, for him is very important too, to make things for the people, to help to the people community and see the community grow. And when I see this community growing, I think if I stop someday, there's going to be a lot of things that are not going to happen, because maybe you're quitting, or maybe you're prioritizing your time in another work or another job, or whatever project you can think of. And this thing that pops in my mind, that I see that if I stop doing what I do, people is going to have less enjoyable moments and less enjoyable competitions. The culture is going to maybe go a little bit slower, because I'm not the only one working worldwide. There's a lot of people working and doing their part, and I'm so grateful for them. But seeing that things that I do make a lot of things moving, and they move people, this is something that I can't I can't stop doing it. So when I am this late stage of life and I look back, I would like to see that I created the most of the enjoyable moments for the shuffle community that I can. So I'm willing to organize competitions in whatever place I can, all the times I can, do workshops, do all things I can to make people enjoy being in the shuffle community, because
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that too. Like I enjoy
Yeah.
going, I enjoy organizing, I enjoy everything, and making people enjoy makes me enjoy even more. So
Yeah.
I I can't think about stopping, because
Yeah.
all that is taken away. So uh,
Exactly.
I can think about any other
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Right.
I
Right
think
on.
it was really it was very long, the answer, but
No, no, no. That
I,
was good. It shows how how invested you are in this. It's good.
okay, so this is the end of the podcast. It's been also 2 hours long, so thank you for listening. If you are at this point of the podcast, I'm going to let you close the podcast, say goodbye, and whatever you want to say to close the podcast, please. The mic is yours.
Hold on. Say that again. Sorry, you lagged out.
Okay, so for closing the podcast, I'm going to let you say whatever you want, say goodbye, whatever you want to say. You can follow Lostboy in his Instagram. You have it linked in the description. So please close the podcast. Lostboy, the mic is all yours.
What's good? It's Jalen Riley, aka Lost Boy, King Shuffler of New York. I want to give a shout out to Nameless. Shout outs to um, Haru, Shura, Nova, Nelson, all the OGs that used to be in Ness. Shout out to Lefty. Shout out to Gilly out in Cali. Shout out to D Hop in Florida. Uh, and shuffle on. Yeah.
You heard that. Shuffle on. Bye.
Yeah. Peace.